You've seen him. I'm sure you have. That lone penguin marching away from the crowd, heading off into the icy unknown. It became this instant, powerful symbol for rebellion, for forging your own path. But what if the story we all fell in love with is just completely wrong?
It was everywhere, right? On TikTok, Instagram, you name it. This clip just exploded. You saw all the captions, things like, me walking away from the drama, or leaving my job on a Friday. It perfectly captured that feeling of being completely over it. And in a weird way, this little penguin became our hero.
And it's wild, because millions of us looked at that image and thought, yeah, that is literally me. It was that deep desire to break free from the daily grind, A kind of quiet protest against a world that just feels like too much sometimes. We saw our own burnout, our own search for something more, all in this one little solitary figure.
But here's the thing. What if that whole heroic narrative, the one we shared and loved, is just a complete misunderstanding? What if the real story isn't the one we told ourselves at all?
See, that clip actually comes from a 2007 documentary by the legendary director Werner Herzog. And in the film itself, the story is incredibly bleak. Herzog doesn't see a hero. He sees what he calls a death march. This wasn't some brave act of rebellion. It was a tragedy unfolding right before the camera.
So let's ditch the memes for a second and actually look at the science. What was really going on with this penguin? Let's get into the cold, hard reality of that lonely walk.
And this is where the two stories just completely break apart. The internet saw a hero on a quest for meaning, making a conscious choice. But scientists and the filmmaker, they saw a creature that was simply lost, most likely because of a biological error or some profound disorientation.
And you have to understand just how severe this mistake was. The penguin was walking inland towards mountains that were 70 to 80 kilometers away. That's almost 50 miles. There is nothing out there for it. No food, no water, no other penguins. This wasn't a path to freedom. It was a one-way ticket to oblivion.
So the big question is, why would it do this? Well, scientists have a few explanations, and let me tell you, none of them are heroic. It could have been simple disorientation. Maybe it was a young or sick bird. It could have been an injury messing with its navigation. Or, and this is the most chilling one, it could have been a total instinctual malfunction, like its internal compass just broke. And this brings us to the real question here. If the reality is so grim, why were we all so eager to believe the heroic story? This is where it gets really interesting, because it turns out this was never really about the penguin. It was about us.
I mean, why do we do that? Why do we see a lost and dying animal and immediately turn it into some kind of philosophical hero on an epic quest? The answer, it turns out, tells us a whole lot more about ourselves than it does about penguins.
That penguin became the perfect vessel for all of our modern anxieties. So many of us are tired of the crowd. We feel alienated by the pressures of society. We have this tendency to romanticize being alone, to mistake loneliness for wisdom. We're so desperate for an alternative that we'll celebrate any act of breaking away without ever stopping to ask if the new direction is actually any good.
And this is really the core lesson from the original essay. Just leaving the herd isn't automatically a good thing. The real challenge, the real courage, is in knowing why you're leaving and where you're going. See, the penguin had no destination. It was just moving away from something, which is a totally different thing from moving towards something. So if the penguin's aimless march isn't the model we should follow, then what is? How do we break free in a way that's actually meaningful and constructive and not just self-destructive? That's what we're going to get into next.
So let's make the distinction really clear. What the penguin did was aimless wandering, an error of instinct. But true rebellion, the kind that actually makes a difference, that's purposeful. It's a conscious choice, and it's always guided by a moral compass.
So what does that kind of purposeful rebellion even look like? Well, it's standing against a norm, not just for the sake of being different, but because you were standing for a clear principle. It means you have a plan. You know where you're going. It's the difference between being lost and being a pioneer.
Okay, let's bring it all together now. We've deconstructed the myth, we've looked at the scientific reality, and we've explored the psychology behind why we were so fascinated. So, what's the ultimate lesson we should take away from the penguin who walked the wrong way? It's this. Real courage isn't just in the act of walking away. It's in the clarity of your destination. It's about having a purpose that guides you, a reason that fuels you. That's the difference between just wandering into the wilderness and charting a brand new course.
So the next time you feel that urge, to walk away from the drama, to leave the crowd behind, just ask yourself this one question. Are you just running away from something, like that lost little penguin, or are you running towards something better? Do you have a compass?